You ready for this?
No.
You think this is one of the scariest things that you've ever had to do in your life?
I can honestly say, yeah, it is.
When we get to the bridge, it's going to be fucking scary.
Yeah.
We're going to be crossing the Crescent City Connection.
Yeah,
These people
the
are
situation
animals.
is everybody who's stuck on this side of the river without transportation is in the area that we're going to right now. And
Walking, desperate, without food or water.
haven't eaten in a few days, haven't drank in a few days. You know, so it's going to be a pretty desperate situation when we get there. And I can honestly say I have no qualms about shooting anybody. It's just that much lawlessness right now.
They'll have no mercy for us.
No, we have no fear. We will shoot first and find
I'll
out
shoot
later.
first, ask questions later.
Right.
We'll have to be picking them off the front.
Here we go.
They have set up a checkpoint at the bottom of this bridge. This is the bridge that takes you from New Orleans over into Gretna, from Orleans Parish into Jefferson's Parish. It's the only way out. It's the connection to the rest of the world. And they've set up a checkpoint, and anyone who walks up out of that city now is turned around. You are not allowed to go to Gretna, Louisiana from New Orleans, Louisiana. Over there, there's hope. Over there, there's electricity. Over there, there's food and water. But you cannot go from there to there. I think the government will not allow you to do it.
You ready for this?
No.
I'm Ryan Coogler, one of the executive producers on the series, Hurricane Katrina, Race Against Time. When Katrina hit in 2005, the images on the news were impossible to ignore. But what we didn't see were the stories behind those images.
We got you, baby.
The people.
Everything you ever worked from there.
The decisions.
They were coming back for you.
The systems that failed.
This ain't no game.
We set out to tell those stories through the voices of the people who lived through the disaster. This is their account of what really happened and why it matters today. I'm
Good
Ryan
morning,
Coogler, the executive
and
producer.
welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. Lots of, as you would say, news and headlines today. It's a busy Tuesday, Niel.
For sure. Peace and love, everybody. Lots of headlines to get through. Of course, you can check that out. It's Hurricane 2005. You can check that out on Hulu and Disney. And we have a great guest for you today. Lots happening in Texas. So we're going to check in with state lawmaker Jolanda Jones. And we have your election results from yesterday. So, Stacey, more Trump news, more craziness, but we have it all right here on Let It Be Known.
Yeah, and it's interesting, that video there. RNG says it took 20 years for people to believe how horrible and illegal the people from New Orleans were treated before, during, and after Katrina. Every year, he says he highlights that horror. Like, wow.
Oh, I think I remember 2005 so clearly, and I know a lot of the displaced people came to California, and I know between Radio One, Kathy Hughes' station, a lot of the Black churches here in LA, and the LA Sentinel, we helped place a lot of people here in the state of California. There was a evangelical church, funny enough, called the Dream Center out here. And we had like over 300 families staying there. And I just remember all the love, like community can come together, especially the Black community when we see our people hurting. And it was just such a horrific time. But a lot of those displaced people came here to California. I remember that.
Yeah. Wow. It was certainly catastrophic. This morning, in a move, Neil, that's seen as a betrayal to his country, to African Americans, and to the global fight for justice, Rwandan President Paul Kagame has agreed to accept up to 250 deportees from the United States under Trump's expanding third country deportation scheme. This comes as Trump, who has a long history of racist remarks, including slurs against African nations, seeks deals to dump immigrants he deems the, quote, worst of the worst into African and Latin American countries. Rwanda now joins South Sudan and Eswatini in accepting deportees, even after its a similar deal with the UK was ruled unlawful and condemned as unethical. The fact, Neil, that any African nation would sign on to this, it's really it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, is it about resources that they need? Um, Military weapons, which is a resource. You just never know. And then, I mean, sometimes people do strange things, and to your point, I guess, in your opinion, this is a strange thing.
Yeah, it just seems strange. But as you said, folks need resources, and we're in a point, not just here in America, where people are just looking to survive, and perhaps that has something to do with this deal too. So we will probably eventually hear what really motivated this. Maybe not sooner than many might like, but eventually, right? So,
Eventually, yeah.
um,
Tech companies, are doing AI. You just never know what the reason is why these leaders. But sometimes you have to take a beat back and just, like you say, let's just see how this plays out, and we'll get to the bottom of the reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. On another front, we've been talking about Democrats and the lack of messaging for a long time, but have they finally found their messaging? They may have finally cracked the code on messaging, and it's hitting Trump where it hurts. Senator Elizabeth Warren laid it out. She says Trump promised lower costs but delivered higher prices on groceries, housing, and healthcare while pushing a signature bill to strip people of coverage and give tax breaks to billionaires while taking away healthcare for 19 million people. Of course, Trump fired back with a racist slur against her and false claims. So it seems, and certainly in this case, that Democrats have their message. Lower cost. No, it never happened. Protecting healthcare. Well, healthcare has been decimated, and making billionaires pay their fair share. Well, Trump has only emboldened billionaires not to have to pay anything. In fact, Charlemagne the God made a comment, and everyone was probably paying, most people, I should say, was probably paying attention to, his feedback on Trump's attack on him. But one of the things he said that I found to be striking, he said, he was telling Laura Trump that, hey, his policies suck. And he said, but here's the thing, what he said, but, I'm saying this, his policies, because of the tax bracket that I am in, actually helps me, but I have to admit how much it sucks. I thought that was very striking.
Hmm.
Because it
Yeah.
proves, it goes along with his point about the billionaires and the fact that, again, Elizabeth Warren seized upon that in many people's view.
Yeah, I think the Democrats, we talked about this yesterday about, their talking points are getting better at being reactive to what the Trump Klan administration is doing. I think still there's a little more work that needs to be done, and they need to turn the corner to talk about what they're going to do for the American people. Everything right now is in response to what Trump is doing, and they're getting better at it. But what are the Democrats going to do for the American people? And that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. That has to do with an agenda of what they feel America looks like. It looks like a more inclusive space. It looks like where there's a fair playing field for all American people. Where is their Project 2028 to lay out how they're going to make education better, how they're going to make healthcare better, how they don't plan to privatize Social Security? What are you going to do for veterans? How are you going to address, this social media and having more, regulations and rules on that? What is your plan? Okay, so I think, like you said, they're getting better at being reactive to Donald Trump. But the Democratic Party still, and I was talking to a few people yesterday, and they were younger people. And these are the things that they were saying. What is the Democrats' plan? I don't care about Donald Trump. What are you going to do for me? And if you want my vote, that's what I need to know.
Well, here's the thing too that goes along with what you just said. While Donald Trump has probably the lowest approval rating in the history of the presidency, is in the 30s, the Democrats as a party also have some of their lowest ratings, approval ratings in their history. And you would think if someone would have told you, back January 1st, January 18th, day before, January 19th, day before he took office, that on August the 6th, he'd have the lowest approval rating in the history of the presidency, which probably would not have been hard to fathom even then before he did the first act. You would think that the Democrats, that his opposition, their approval ratings would be soaring, but they're in the toilet like his.
Right. They don't even want to go to their town halls. They're backing out of their community town halls. They're afraid to go.
Oh gosh, that's something else right there. That's a heck of a statement. They don't even want to go to their own town halls.
They don't, and they're hiding behind, MAGA, but that group is so small. But because, white supremacy reigns, they have power. It was so funny. One of the city council members, we talked about a little earlier, the Latino council members that got in trouble here in LA, Kevin DeLeon, which is a former council member, called us, the Black people, said that we're like the Wiz in The Wizard of Oz. And he was talking to them and saying, have you seen the Wiz? And the other Latino people was like, no, we ain't seen that. Well, the wizard was the person that sat behind, and he made himself bigger than what he really is. He was saying that about us, but really, we can apply that to MAGA. They're not as big as they are, but because of the power, yeah.
Yep. And one of the things that set Trump off, again, referencing Charlemagne, was that Charlemagne made the point that what he is starting to feel, he says he doesn't have any hard numbers to back this up, but he's going on field and what he's seeing, that it seems like the Epstein situation now has MAGA. Trump is losing his MAGA base, and there are some Republicans who really are some conservatives looking to take their party back from Trump. And that really set that man off. It's like, wow. Why would that set him off if it's not true?
Right. And it's funny that you bring up the Epstein files, because I saw yesterday a lot of Ayanna Pressley were posting about how they have to release the files. They have 2 weeks. Bondi and the Department of Justice have about 2 weeks. But on the flip side, I saw that they subpoenaed the Clintons to come and testify about the Epstein files. And then they demanded Bondi open up an investigation, some lawmakers, on Barack Obama in the 2020 election still. So Donald Trump is trying to do everything. And you know how they say throw spaghetti up and whatever sticks? Yep. That's what I see happening right here.
Well, you mentioned yesterday about the poll that shows Obama, I think it's something like 12% or more ahead.
11%, yeah.
11%. And as I mentioned, there's a story that I wrote about all of this. And one of the things in the story, it's just a part of the story. I think I must say myself, it's a pretty good read. Go on blackpressusa.com and check it out. But one of the things I posited in the story was that we all know that at some point last year and the last few years during and after the 34 felony convictions, Trump was essentially running to stay out of prison. Right. Well, with the way things are going now, and through no fault of his own, if Trump is able to run for a third term, as we've stated and as you've stated, then if he chooses, and he's shown no inclination that he wants to at all, but Barack Obama would then seemingly be able to run again as well. And in that case, he may be running to stay out of Trump's concentration camps.
Well, did you say Trump has shown no inclination that he wants to run?
Obama has shown
yeah.
no
inclination.
Okay. Yeah. Obama just wants to chill. He just wants to go
Right.
and
Right.
do, do his foundation business and mind his business. And people stop with these crazy stuff about him and Michelle having problems.
But I think Obama would love to come in and fix it. You know,
You think so? You think he
I
has the
mean, he
appetite?
seems I mean, I think he'd love to come and fix it
But
without all of the chaos that we are under now. But I think he would. I think that he would be the perfect person to come and fix it. I can't think of any other elected official that could come in with the expertise, the temperament that Obama has to fix all of this. Now, I'm not saying that he's the perfect guy and that he has all the answers, but if I was a voter and I needed somebody to put my, faith in while I do my life every day, it's going to be him. Okay. 100%.
Well, and according to those who vote, he would certainly
Yeah.
win, and he's the only Democrat that anybody could be confident in, according to the polls, because it shows right now. Last poll I saw, I looked at, and I think it's in my article. You had Harris and Biden head to head. Biden against Trump, Harris against Vice President Kamala Harris against Trump. Right now, they both would, according to these polls, would win by about 2%, but there's a margin of error of 3%, so it's a toss-up. But with Obama, it's a landslide that Obama would beat Trump in a landslide.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's who I'm putting my money on. If I had to look, and I'm talking about looking at, the Westmores, who I love and I think is on the rise, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris. I'm going with Obama. Chat, let us know who you're going with. Out of Newsom, Kamala Harris, Westmore, or Obama, since this is all hypothetical, who would you vote for?
That's a really good chat question right there. Who would you select of those aforementioned individuals? Because Gavin Newsom obviously makes no bones about it. We know he has presidential aspirations. Westmore, he's kind of more coy about whether or not his aspirations go to the presidency or not. But when you get in such a high-profile position like he is as governor of Maryland and able to affect policy change like he has in the state of Maryland, come on, the presidency has to be at least somewhere on your mind. RNG says Westmore with he put it in all caps.
Right. Now you named off those, and then don't forget about Kamala Harris. We know, that if she could, she would want another try at it. And then you have Barack Obama.
Yeah, Justine Sports Medicine says Obama. It would be, I tell you what, just from a spectator point of view, because everything is about, I don't know, sports or whatever, but from a spectator point of view, that's like a big pay-per-view event. That would be like the steel cage match. That would be like the World Series, the Super Bowl, Obama versus Trump.
Okay, so wait a minute. So Big Cheese is saying Barack Obama is out of touch with black men. We just don't trust him. I don't think that we should disregard that, because when we look at how black men are, accepting of Trump, I think that's a very good point. And the question is, why doesn't Barack Obama resonate with a lot of black men? Not all black men, because we know that over 80% of black men voted for Kamala Harris. But that is a point that black men tend to are leaning towards Donald Trump for some strange reason. And I just want to figure it out.
It is really, when you dig into it, it is either the very wealthy black men or the uneducated black men. Those who live in the Scarface era, the money power era, the money power in their minds, that Trump still represents that. And that is in large part, Neil, I believe, from what I've been able to observe, in large part, because when Trump was, in New York years ago, he was hanging out with with Michael Jackson. He was hanging out with Mike Tyson. He was hanging out with all
Mhm.
the black rappers and
He
stuff
has the
like that.
pictures to prove it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that they never got to know him. You know, it was just cool that they were in the, you know, in the company of this so-called billionaire. What they never understood was that Fred Trump was the billionaire, that his son Donald was ruining all of the Trump businesses, running them to bankruptcy, and he was using them for photo ops. And you know, good for Donald Trump in that sense, smart enough to use that to his advantage all these years later, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I find it interesting, the way you talk about Trump. Even when we had Chuck D on a Monday, being from New York, you gentlemen have a better understanding of Donald Trump. Like we did, because you lived in the city. So I guess he was more in the headlines. He was more active in the city. So he was part of the fabric and the culture of New York. Versus, you know, people who didn't live in New York, we didn't get that. So like, even when you think of the exonerated five, you know, when you think of like the apartment buildings in the 1970s that him and his daddy tried to disenfranchise black people about, all of those things, you guys lived those experiences, so they were in your headlines for the day. And so I think you bring a very interesting and important perspective when talking about Donald Trump, because his history is based in New York.
Well, and this idea, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Barack Obama, but I will say this: somebody just off their rocker saying that Trump is more masculine. What make right? What makes, first of all, you know, we don't see Obama with sexual assault, civil liabilities against him. We don't see Obama with 34 felonies. We also see Trump going off constantly on social media and regularly. He was on the roof of the White House for some reason the other day.
It was so bizarre. Yelling at the reporters.
Yelling at reporters as if dementia had set in. And the thing about Obama, the one thing I like about Barack Obama, and again, you know, I'm not an Obama fan. But the one thing I like about him is that something that I wish I can be, which is when you disagree and when somebody's attacking you, you can be as cool, calm, and collected. And then you can not only be cool, calm, and collected, but you just get back in a very calm way. In a very, you know, this guy, when you talk about Trump, it's like if he's against Obama, it's like bringing a knife to a machine gun fight, and Obama is the machine gun.
But I think it's you know, looking at Cheese's comment, Trump is more masculine than Barack. You know, as a woman, when you look at Barack Obama and you know how no scandal ever, the way he loves his wife, the way he treats his wife, the way he's a girl dad, you talking about his temperament, and just the way he loves God, goes to church. You know, to me, that's masculinity. You know, taking advantage of women, sexually assaulting them, raping them, taking advantage of young girls, taking advantage of college students, people who see you as a light, and you taking that and then stealing from them. That's not masculinity to me. That's a douchebag.
And I guarantee you, Obama's daughters, what's their name? Sasha and what's the other one? Malia. I guarantee you, whether private, publicly, in his dreams or anything, Obama never said, "Boy, if that wasn't my daughter, what I would do with her," as Trump said about his own daughter. So you want to talk about something?
You talk about masculinity,
right?
You know,
right?
Come on,
exactly. You know, it's just listen. I got 4 of the most beautiful girls in the world, in my estimation, and absolutely I'd shoot myself in the head if a thought like that came across my mind about one of my daughters. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. So you're gonna
For
call that
sure.
masculinity? And speaking of Trump, his latest racist remarks probably shouldn't be ignored. He's again ramped up his racist rhetoric, this time claiming undocumented immigrants are naturally inclined to do back-breaking farm work. He said they don't get a bad back. If they do, they die, and added that people in the inner city, his go-to code for Black Americans, don't do that work. Well, you remember just last year, he told Black journalists that immigrants are, quote, taking Black jobs, a phrase that doesn't exist in law or in fact.
Right.
Now, while deporting the very people farmers rely on, Trump is reviving the same racist playbook that's long been used to exploit, divide, and control Black and brown communities in America. So, he's not just trafficking in hate, he's pushing the lie that some people are born to suffer so others can stay in power.
Sounds like slavery to me. It sounds like
100%.
I could have heard a white slave master say that same stupid shit.
Isn't that what that baseball was it? No, Jimmy the Greek, right? Then he said that they are bred certain ways. Remember, he got fired, the sports announcer back in the 80s. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, it sounds like slavery to me. And how basically he's just regurgitating, how white supremacists feel, right? When you look at his history, his daddy was a member of the KKK. I think that we forget and lose sight of how Donald Trump was raised. He was raised in a house that was built to hate Black people, to hate people of color, and to maintain white supremacy. And if there's anything that a Democratic Party is going to do to talk about a Donald Trump, I think that should be at the forefront of all of the conversation. You have to learn how to change the narrative of everything. Yeah, this man is a racist. And this is stuff that you would hear in the Klan barn, back in the backwoods orangey of Louisiana, maybe Ruston in the back barn where the KKK meet. This is that type of rhetoric.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that type of rhetoric. And before our guest gets here, it's a story of note. Niall, Democrats get a Republican voice of reason. The Democratic National Committee Chair, Kim Martin, appeared in Illinois alongside a group of Texas House Democrats who fled the state as part of a dispute with Republicans over redistricting. Martin vowed to bring a knife to a knife fight to block efforts to redraw congressional maps mid-decade in a way that would benefit Republicans. Now, Republican California Representative Kevin Kiley is calling on Speaker Mike Johnson to show some leadership and end the redistricting chaos that is unfolding in several states across the nation. In an interview on MSNBC, Riley said, quote, "The old saying is that voters should choose their representatives. Representatives shouldn't choose their voters." He goes on to say that, quote, "I think that what's happening right now across the country, and especially in California, is a very unhealthy thing for democracy." He has introduced legislation in the House to nullify any new redistricting maps adopted by states before the 2030 census.
Yeah, well, finally, there's one.
There's one.
Can I get two? Can I get two? Can I get two? Can I get 5? Can I get 20? Can I get 20? And then I'm thankful for that, because we see that I hear JD Vance is headed to Indiana, to start the congressional maps in Indiana, to start redrawing those. And so I could just say, Stacey, get your popcorn. Because you got Hochul and Newsom, like, okay, FAFO, that's exactly what Newsom said. And then you got what's happening in Texas. It's about to be chaos. And this is what, when they say expect the unexpected, this is what they're talking about.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe you know the answer, because I don't know the answer. If they steal those 5 seats in Texas, like they're trying to do, make no mistake, they're trying to steal those seats, right?
Mhm.
A Democratic state like California, who, of course, like you said, Gavin Newsom said, FAFO, we're going to do the same. Does California have enough seats to overcome those 5 stolen seats in Texas? Is there enough seats that if they do redistricting in California, that they could actually make? Because I don't know too many Republican strongholds in California.
Oh yeah, there are tons of Republican legislators that well, no, not really. But what they can do is split the districts to add more. And that's basically what they're going to do, you know. And that's basically how the process starts. You know, they look at the map and they look at where they could, you know, have a stronghold and increase their numbers. So they're going to do the same thing Hochul. What they do is they look at the map and they say, okay, so like for example, Maxine Waters, they might add, you know, they could split her district to add another Democrat. Sidney Kamlager, and I'm talking about Black legislators. So the only thing, Stacey, that could be a problem is that Black people lose representation, because even if it's a Democrat, 9 chances out of 10 here in California, it's going to be a Latina or Latino.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And the same with New York. I was thinking about New York, and you know, when folks think of New York, they only think of the city, but it's the state, of course, that Governor Hochul is talking about, fighting fire with fire there. Same thing there. I mean, there are so many. Once you get past Mount Vernon and Westchester County, you're going into lily white territory. It may be Democrat, but you're still going into white districts. So,
right.
Here's a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Now, here's a question for you for our chat, because I see this. We've been seeing this for a long time now. Folks, when we talk about the racism of Trump, folks love to bring up the 1994 crime bill of Joe Biden. And you know, we can go into it. We can dissect how it wasn't just Joe Biden. It was the Black churches. It was the Congress. It was the NAACP, and everybody supporting that bill. But we can eliminate that, if you will. But let me just ask this question: is that something that, if you put one against the other, and Biden has come out and apologized, whether he meant it or not, the apology, whether you accept the apology or not, he's apologized for it. His policies when he was in office tried to sort of make up for it. When you look at the 94 crime bill, and you see that was a devastating event on the Black community, but then you look at somebody who is on a minute by minute, not a day by day, but a second by second basis, doing everything in his power to exert white supremacy over Black folks and put Black folks in chains. Which would you go for? Chat, who would you go for? Which scenario would you go for?
I think they're both horrible.
Right.
I mean, as the chat chimes in, I think they're both horrible. I think that you have Joe Biden working under white privilege and you have Donald Trump working under white supremacy. Both of them are problematic. They're both problematic.
Yeah, so it's hard to say one is worse than the other.
To me, they're both problematic. White privilege, you know, and thinking that you're doing the good for, you know, people for the sake of Black people, you know what I mean? And a lot of times, like you brought up the NAACP, you brought up the Black church, you know, it was like how it was packaged up and framed to us. You know, this is going to make America safe again. You know, that's basically what that crime bill is, make America safe again, but at the detriment of Black people, at the detriment of not just locking up Black men, but breaking up Black families. You know, and at the detriment of not looking at prison and incarceration as a form of rehabilitation, but as a form to break up Black families and put Black men in prison. Because at the end of the day, a hustler, a Black hustler that's trying to survive for themselves ain't no different from the shit that Donald Trump is doing. It ain't no different. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, one could be a federal crime. I mean, it's just like powder cocaine and crack cocaine.
And crack, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about white privilege, Joe Biden, powder cocaine, and we talk about Donald Trump crack. I'm sorry.
One is powder and the other one is crack.
I'm sorry.
When you got a man walking on the roof of the White House, there's a problem there.
There's a huge problem. There's a huge problem.
Did y'all see that though? I mean, you obviously saw it, Niel. Did the chat? Did y'all see the president walking on the roof of the White House and yelling at reporters?
I mean, it just gets bizarre by the day.
Yeah.
I mean, and for him to be talking to members of the press from the roof of the White House. Just another bizarre issue at the White House. We're waiting for our guests right now.
Oh, look, there it is.
Yeah. I mean, what is he gonna do? Put a patio on the roof? He already messed up the Kennedy Rose Garden and put a big slab of prison concrete out there.
Prison concrete.
What are you gonna do? Maybe he's thinking about having a rooftop at the White House, so he can have his mixers and sign his bills.
Oh gosh, I mean, it was like watching, and it's not to make light of older people, any people with some sort of cognitive decline. But it was like watching someone like that, an old man with with serious cognitive decline going, and you're like, okay, what is he doing? Is he gonna walk off the roof? Although I'm sure there were people cheering for him to do so, but
right. We have some more headlines to jump into as we wait for our guests, which is in the same vein of things. So primary elections yesterday were held in Michigan.
I'm sorry, stop for 1 second. The breaking news there, Niel. Apparently our guest is being held up because there's a bomb threat going on. Oh my gosh. I mean, where's she at, Niel? Do we know?
Well, we don't know if she was one of the lawmakers that have fled to New York or Illinois, or if she remained in Texas. We do know that she is running for Congress to replace Sylvester Turner, who actually took over Sheila Jackson Lee's seat when she passed away. And so we don't know if she's in Texas, Illinois, or New York, and we were going to find that out this morning. So as we continue to wait for her, we can move on, and hopefully she will join us before the end of the show. But we will definitely keep you updated and see we have real-time action happening. Okay,
I'm serious. Wow. She said there is a bomb threat at the hotel. She has to reschedule.
Okay. Wow. So the crazy times we live in, right?
Yes.
Hopefully we can get her back tomorrow to talk to us and give us an update on this bomb threat. Crazy times.
I hope she's not the target. My gosh. And there's always a possibility, right?
Well, I know that the governors of the states provided hotel rooms for all of them. So I'm assuming that if she is in a hotel, that means she's not in Texas. So we can assume she's either in Illinois or New York. And she's in the host hotel with other lawmakers.
Oh, goodness grief. If we get more information, folks, we'll definitely pass it along. But go ahead, Neil. I'm just had to jump in there. That's
Greer said she was frantic.
Oh, wow. I would imagine so.
Wow.
Man, that is that's some really
yeah. So we'll keep you posted.
So there right now, and I don't know if she's in Nantucket, because right now there is a major bomb threat there. This just in from WCVB television there in Nantucket. I'm not sure if that's where she's at. Maybe I shouldn't speculate. Maybe she doesn't want anybody to know where she's at, so I don't really want to do that. But you know, it's such an alarming news.
Yeah, where's Nantucket at?
folks, I'm about to say something, and I could be wrong, but I'm thinking Rhode Island,
Is that by Martha's Vineyard?
right? Going up that
Okay, so
way, right?
there's a there's the Martha's Vineyard Black Festival happening right now.
That's
And so
right.
there's a lot of
That's
the
right.
Black Film Festival. There's a lot of the Obamas are usually there during this time. It's like where Black America, the Black America elite take over Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. Their film festivals, their summits,
And
lots of fellowship
Massachusetts,
going
yeah.
on.
Yep, you're absolutely right. That's exactly the location that we're talking about here. You're absolutely right.
So we'll definitely care. So as Stacy is monitoring that, we will keep you up to date in real time. And then we will go to why we need to change this country.
Yeah,
Uh,
Gris, her mother is there.
oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe we can get some more developing information before the show ends. And as I was saying, yesterday elections were held in Michigan, Mississippi, and Washington State. One of the key elections that everybody is paying attention to is Detroit. We know Detroit has a large African American population, and so the mayor's race in Detroit held their elections yesterday, and City Council President Mary Sheffield won by 84% of the vote, which they are still counting. So she's advancing to a runoff in November against Solomon Kinlock, who is also African American male. And so I know that a lot of people are going for Mary Sheffield, Stacy. I know Cookie Johnson, Maggie Johnson's wife, Samuel L. Jackson's wife, they are pouring a lot of money into her campaign. So it seems like she's the rising Hollywood star for this mayor's race in Detroit.
Is there any polling that we know of right now that shows where things stand?
She's at 84%.
You did say that. Okay. 84%.
Yeah, she's at 84%, and they're still counting votes. But
That's amazing. 84%. Who gets 84% of the vote? Holy
She's
smokes.
definitely the front runner. And like I said, it shows that money, a lot of time wins campaigns.
Well, 84% is like the other person should not even bothered. I mean, that's like a solo race right there. Holy
Yeah,
smokes.
she was definitely the favorite and front runner to win. And so she advances to the November ballot, and even more so with this, more than 100,000 seats are on the ballot in 2025. So we can make whatever side you're on, you can make a substantial difference if you start going after these seats from a state and city level. Because that's where the bulk of the seats are. Of course, we have the congressional races, but most of these 100,000 seats are based upon state and local elections.
Wow.
Yeah,
That 84% just blows me away.
And June, Elon Musk, even though he talked all of that crap about Donald Trump and the Epstein files and this and that, he still poured in like 15 million to the Republican Party and to Trump's campaign in June.
Of course he did. Supremacist gonna supremacist.
Yeah. Okay. And in more headlines, 6 more states banned junk food purchases from being brought by SNAP, which of course is the other name for food stamps. Now, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced that West Virginia, Florida, Colorado, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas have all had new waivers approved that allowed each state to modify what can and can't be bought using food benefits. Now, the change will impact approximately 8.5 million people. And so this brings the total of states banning junk food to 12 states. The other states are Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, and Utah. And this order goes into effect at the top of 2026.
As if he cares. As if he cares about the health of these people. I mean, look, I don't hate the law. I don't hate that, because EBT SNAP is mostly at least theoretically to benefit children, right? Um, I don't hate the idea that they're saying, you shouldn't buy candy and junk food with your SNAP benefits. But I also don't like the idea of people dictating what you can and cannot do when it comes to that stuff. But again, the bottom line for me is like, as if this man cares about the well-being of anybody outside of, his own body.
Okay, but the hypocrisy of it all is that Michelle Obama did the same thing with Let's Move. Okay,
right.
She did the same thing.
That was really you can argue that that's a better plan anyway, because you should move.
That's the point. She did the exact same thing, but she addressed it from a child standpoint, right? She did it at the elementary school levels to teach children, to change the mindset of parents and children. That was the thing. Hey, carrots are good. Remember, she had Beyonce do the Let's Move video. She went all around the country. She built a garden at the White House. So she was promoting healthy living, happy lifestyles. And then white people were like, you can't tell us what to eat. Don't tell our children what to do. Now here comes the Trump clan.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Michelle didn't take your benefits. She didn't take the sugar from your SNAP. She was just trying to give your children healthy options at school and help change their mindset and give them some options. She didn't say, and by the way, go to SNAP and take all of their sweet treats.
Orange says he's personally watched poor white people buying seafood with SNAP, but they didn't buy any seasoning. This guy.
Hilarious.
Dr. Joni says the thing I don't like about this is that it excludes a lot of things that aren't horrible to eat, and just because you have fewer resources doesn't mean the government should be allowed to control it.
Right.
So true.
Okay, so we have another one for the Trump clan. They are reinstalling a statue of Confederate General Albert Pike in the DC area. Now, according to the National Parks and Service, the statue was torn down during Black Lives Matter protests after George Floyd's murder. Now, this is how the statement read. The National Park Service will restore and reinstall the bronze statue, which was toppled and vandalized during riots in June of 2020. Now, I thought this was interesting because it said, from one perspective, the statue was torn down during the Black Lives Matter protest. The Trump clan administration put out a statement and says that it was toppled and vandalized during riots in June of 2020. And this is the problem, like when we were talking about Joe Biden, crack cocaine, powder cocaine, choice of words, even Joe Biden, when those white trash rioters took over the Capitol, he said the sexy word insurrectionist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do they get that term?
Mm-hmm.
When they are rioters, they rioted the Capitol, right?
Yep, it was a mob and they rioted.
The term,
it was a bunch of thugs.
Bunch of thugs, but they were called insurrectionists. Okay, so this is what I mean. Right. This is what I mean about white privilege and how white people, and then you got the white supremacists. Right. White privilege, KKK, Donald Trump, Joe Biden.
I saw, and we've used his videos. Greer's used his videos before. The white guy that with the beard and everything. What is his name? You know who I'm talking about, Greer, that does not the memes, but he really breaks it down. He's a big fan of Jasmine Crockett. He does a lot on Jasmine Crockett with his videos.
Oh, Jolly. You're talking about Jolly.
Jolly. That's him. And, I saw him again remind everybody. He had a video of all Tim Scott and all those guys who was kissing Trump's feet and kissing the ring and all that stuff. And he said, they still don't have a job in the administration. Oh gosh.
But Dr. Joni said they are terrorists. They are domestic. Right. Why couldn't Joe Biden have just said that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he said a word that a lot of Americans had to go look up. Call them what they are: thugs, white terrorists, white nationalists, white supremacists, rioters.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
see, we get called riots because we say rioters because we say Black Lives Matter.
And thugs. Don't forget thugs.
You know,
That's
thugs.
one of their favorite dog whistles.
When we protest, it's called riots instead of civil unrest.
Yep.
You know, terminology matters, and that's what I'm talking about. When we talk about Joe Biden, we talk about, you know, there's still, even though I believe Joe Biden is sorry for what he did, I believe with all his heart he is sorry. I think that's why he picked the Black woman for VP. I think that's why he was atoned. You know, when
he was trying to atone. That's what I said.
Atonement, he was trying to atone.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get it, but he's still like, the pastor says you could be innocently ignorant. He still has that factor, and that's what you call white privilege. He had no business calling them people insurrectionists.
Innocently
ignorant. That's what the pastor say. People can be innocently ignorant. That means they don't mean no harm. You know, versus Donald Trump, he means harm.
Well, he definitely means harm, but
he's ignorant and he ain't innocent about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Biden, you know, people can change, right? Not everybody has shown that they can, or they want to, rather. But people, did Biden really change, or did he do what he felt was necessary to get into office? And the only reason I asked that question, because you know, we did report on a lot of the great stuff that administration did, but I can't shake January 18th and Biden sitting in that Oval Office telling everybody that basically, you know, I'm out and you guys are in trouble, and having the same powers on January 18th or January 19th that he ceded to Trump on January 20th. Do you think for any second, don't be misled for any second, January 19th, 2028 or 2029 or whenever his transfer of power is supposed to happen, do you think that if Trump felt that way about his situation, his people's situation, not that he cares about anybody, that he's going to leave office with that power behind him, with the ability that the Supreme Court gave presidents? Biden knew what he was doing. Biden walked away in all his white privilege, as you said.
Right. I mean, the main point is he pardoned his son. He didn't pardon Marilyn Mosby. He
None of these black prosecutors.
He didn't preemptive pardons for these black prosecutors. He saved his son. That's what when I say white privilege, that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. And to have Trump, and as Nancy Wall said, come in back in November of last year to the White House and say, welcome back. Nancy Wall says, I knew it was a loss.
Yeah, and see, two things could be right at the same time. Biden could be very remorseful, and he's doing all that he can to hold the status quo, right? Because we know that this nation is built on systemic racism. Every fabric and institution, from policing to education to healthcare, it's all systemically built on the backs of black people, but at the detriment of black people. We know that. But at the same time, Biden was just holding the line of the status quo of this nation. He didn't really change it. He held the line, which is fine because we found a way to have some liberties. We found a way to navigate. We got our federal jobs. It was okay. Status quo.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump blew all that up.
We got a sound bite from Kamala Harris. Let's check it out.
Recently, I made the decision that for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I think it's broken. I think there's so much. I mean, there are so many good people who are public servants, who do such good work, teachers and firefighters and police officers and nurses and scientists. And so it's not about them, but, I believe And I always believed that as fragile as our democracy is, our systems would be strong enough to defend our most fundamental principles. And I think right now that they're not as strong as they need to be. And I just don't want to, for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I want to travel the country. I want to listen to people. I want to talk with people. And I don't want it to be transactional where I'm asking for their vote.
She seems worn out. She sounds like, listen, y'all can have this. When you think about qualifications, who's been more qualified or as qualified as that woman for that job than, in a long time? In fact, the last most qualified was Barack Obama.
Yeah, like that, like she said, like the structures was strong enough, right, to carry the status quo. You had the fundamental foundation of education, of healthcare, of just the structures that at least everybody it was enough, right? But now with Donald Trump, and on the flip side of that, there's a whole group of people who don't see it the way she sees it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see the fundamental. And I think that's that's what makes Trump appealing.
Yeah. She's not, as Greer said, she ain't trying to go back in the system. And Dr. Joni says that she was more qualified than Obama. I'm sure you certainly can make that argument. The last, who was more qualified when you think about all of those who've been in that office for the last few decades? I mean, who's been more qualified than Kamala Harris? Again, that's from the outside looking in. That's what it looks like to me.
Does she? You mean like out of all the Barack Obama,
Well, so I'm saying Dr. Joni says that she was more. Dr. Joni believes that Vice President Harris was more qualified for the job than even Barack Obama. That's her opinion.
That's
but
debatable.
Yeah,
that's definitely
right. It is debatable.
Yeah.
Right. But like I said, perhaps they were equally qualified. I don't know. But I'm saying that you can't argue that folks that we've had, even including Joe Biden, have been more qualified than Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad, Reverend Green, at Condoleezza Rice. I'm not mad at Susan Rice either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you could say Loretta Lynch.
My wife and I had a young guy who works with our daughter. Said they work at the baseball stadium and for the summer, and we gave him a ride home the other day, and it was so interesting. He is going to be a senior in high school this year, and he said to us, we asked him about his future plans, and he said that he wants to be a lawyer, but ultimately a politician. But he feels like he got he needs that legal stuff, and he wants to be a public servant, he said. And it was so surprising to hear a young Black kid say that, the lawyer, the politician. But he's talking about doing other stuff in which he was saying, so his qualifications would meet that of what a public servant should have. And I thought that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we don't see that. Obviously, we don't have that now. we don't have that in any way, shape, or form now. So, oh boy, I just thought that was so interesting.
Yeah. So the world we live in, and I have no more headlines for today, Stacey.
That's it.
I'm exhausted. I can't wait to
slacking on your pimping.
No, I'm ready to jump into what has happened to State Representative Jolanda Jones. We want to find out what happened with her. We want to get her rebooked on this show. And praying for all of those brave lawmakers coming out of Texas who are trying to hold the line for democracy and for their state, state electeds doing the damn thing. And so we got to keep them in prayer, and also keep you guys updated as to how that story is unfolding.
Absolutely. And as far as our Black history facts, on this date in 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, a landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discriminatory voting practices, particularly those targeting African Americans. The act's passage came after years of struggle against discriminatory voting practices and following the murders of 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi who were involved in a voter registration drive. The Voting Rights Act also led to a dramatic increase in Black voter registration and the election of Black officials in the South. That is on this date back in 1965.
Yeah, I think this is such a good lesson how we cannot give up, because we know that the Civil Rights Act of 1963, that the Big Six, Dr. King, the NAACP, the Urban League, the National Council of Women, they wanted this voting rights to be a part of the Civil Rights Act of 1963. And Dr. King and them were pissed. And Lyndon B. Johnson was like, Congress is not going to pass it if we put it in. It's just not going to happen. And so he held that out, and they were mad because they felt that it was a defeat, but they kept being persistent. They kept pushing. And 2 years later, we got this. And so I think that's a good lesson, we got to just keep going. We got to just keep pushing. And especially when we look at what's happening this week in the Supreme Court, how they're trying to gut more civil rights. This right here, this week, the Supreme Court is trying to gut more of this act
Or civil rights.
right now this week. And
Yeah,
guess who's leading the charge?
Yep.
Stephen Fetchit, Uncle Tom, Clarence Thomas.
Yep, absolutely. They step and fetch it. There you go. And like you said, more civil rights they are looking to remove. And so folks want to talk about, this guy is better than Kamala. This guy is better than Joe. This guy is better than Barack. Yeah, okay. We know either you are a supremacist yourself, a white supremacist yourself, or you are Django from what's his name, Stephen from Django Unchained, or something. Yeah. So you are one of the. And Sam Jackson said that character was the most despicable character in the history of movies.
Right. And I think, just really like this happening today, this being the anniversary, looking at what they're doing in the Supreme Court to gut more of this act on this anniversary date. And then we look at what's happening in Texas, and we see JD Vance going to Indiana. Folks, Donald Trump has no plans on leaving the White House. And all of these actions that the Supreme Court are taking, that these Republican state legislators are taking, that Congress is taking, is building up to where they will have such a majority to where he don't have to leave office. That's what all this is about. So when we reflect on the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, we also should be reflecting on just how fragile it is. And going back to what Kamala Harris said, it's broken. The system is broken.
It's broken.
Ring the alarm. Ring the alarm. And since we're going to ring the alarm, this is Black August, right?
Yep.
Black August is all about resistance. So I want to take you to the year of 1989, where NWA was performing in Detroit, and they were halted by the police due to the song F the Police, highlighting the group's controversial and powerful message. That song was very controversial, but it was also a song of resistance and defiancy of how the police treat Black folks in this country. And so on this day in Black August, we remember NWA and their song, F the Police.
Wow, she came. West Coast woman doing West Coast things.
West Side.
There it is. Our Black-owned newspaper of the day is none other than the Kansas City Call. It was founded in 1919 by Chester Arthur Franklin, or CA, who owned and operated the Call until his death on May 7th, 1955. The Call was developed as a voice for the growing African American population in Kansas City with its vibrant music and culture. The Kansas City Call's publishers say the newspaper is the oldest Black-owned publication west of the Mississippi River. So our Black-owned paper of the day is the Kansas City Call. Check them out online, or if you're in the Kansas City area, pick up a physical copy of the Kansas City Call.
Yes, and for the latest in Black news and to read that article about that Stacey just wrote about a hypothetical election between Obama and Donald Trump, you want to head over to blackpressusa.com. Plus, we have tons of other stories that will uplift you, piss you off, but also make you feel, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud.
James, all right. She went from NWA to James. All right, there we go. Folks, we appreciate you all. And as Neil said, we will update you tomorrow on the situation there with the bomb threat. And hopefully our guest is okay, number one, physically and otherwise, and will be able to join us soon. So we'll update you on that as well. Thanks for watching. Let It Be Known. We'll see you then.